heads up, because you are back in the Hoodwood. I'm the Black Bandit KJ Green, welcoming you to another edition of Sports from the Hoodwood. Coming up in this edition, look who's back. I don't know if he says it right, but look who's back, me. We got a lot of ground to cover. The World Series is on tap. New York, LA, who do I think is going to win? No, I don't want a meteor to strike the world. We're going to look at the World Series and who I think could win the Fall Classic. A WNBA title for the Liberty. Did the Lynx get cheated? Take a look at the WNBA Finals and how the Liberty won their first title. College football playoff madness. It's everywhere. Army, Navy ranked. Michigan, USC not. Could Bama be on the CFP bubble? Take a look at that. NBA tipped off on Tuesday. Can the Celtics repeat? And how long will Bronny last in LA? We have NFL Week 8 picks, Phat Dap, head slap, all sorts of takes. We've got a cornucopia of topics. Not a lot of time to cover. We got a lot of stuff to get to, so let's get to it. Put your crash helmets on, buckle your seatbelts. It's Sports from the Hoodwood, straight ahead. Let's go.
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for the most honest, unfiltered commentary and insight on the world of sports. Now, once again, here's Hoodwood's hometown hero, KJ Green.
Greetings from the Hoodwood, where I know it's been a while. Last week was ragged, but I promise to bring you a crisper, cleaner show. I'm going to work hard to make it a good show every week. I'm your man, KJ Green, welcoming you back to the Hoodwood. And right off the top, let's talk about the World Series, the Fall Classic, starting this Friday in Chavez Ravine, where the Yankees and the Dodgers meet for what it seems like an inevitable clash of the two biggest payrolls in Major League Baseball. I know. I'm not going to complain about the Yankees and Dodgers having spent the most money, but they've got to the World Series. And believe it or not, this is the first time these two teams have met in the World Series in over 4 decades. Snuffy says it's Yankees-Dodgers Part 12. This is the 12th time they've met in the Fall Classic, but the first time in 43 years. The Dodgers looking to win their first World Series since 2020. The Yankees in the Fall Classic for the first time in 15 years. Seems like yesterday that Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez were patrolling the confines of Yankee Stadium, winning the World Series over the Phillies. But no, it's been a while. The Yankees have been some ups and downs, and Aaron Boone was on the hot seat for a while to see if he could get his team to the Fall Classic. He did, and now can they beat the Dodgers? The Dodgers, led by the incomparable Shohei Ohtani, who most people think is going to win the Most Valuable Player award in the National League. He had a spectacular season, and his first playoff venture gets all the way to the Fall Classic. The Yankees, led by the irrepressible Aaron Judge, who finally has cashed in on his immense talent and leading the New York Yankees to the Fall Classic. I personally think both of these teams are better than advertised. Both teams winning over 95. I beg your pardon, instead of not both of them winning 95 games. Try it again. Both of these teams better than advertised. Both of them winning over 90 games. The Yankees winning 94. The Dodgers winning 98. And because the Dodgers have won 98, we didn't have no all-star game determining who got the home field advantage or rotating from year to year. The Dodgers won 98 games, best record in baseball. They were the number 1 overall seed. They've been playing, having home field advantage. Though they did struggle against the Padres. They were down 2-1 to the Padres, but won a Game 4 in a shutout fashion, won Game 5 in a shutout fashion to get out of the divisional series. Facing the New York Mets, a plucky Mets team. But quiet as kept. I'm glad the Mets got beat because I would have went nuts with a New York World Series. I'd be like, make it stop. But Dodgers overcoming the Mets and pushing their way to their first World Series in 5 years. The Fall Classic starting on October 25th. The World Series, when these two teams played last in the World Series, ended on October 25th. And that was with a divisional series mixed in. Go figure. A longer season, better coverage, who knows? But I'm telling you right now, I'm looking at both teams. Which team do I think is going to pull out the win? I'm giving the edge to the Dodgers. They don't have a standout pitcher. I mean, they do have some good pitchers, but they don't have a dominant pitcher like when Clayton Kershaw was really towing the rubber and winning a lot of games, but he couldn't win the postseason. But that's neither here nor there. The Yankees have decent pitching. They have really, really good hitting. I mean, they have up and down their lineup a bunch of really good hitters. But I think the Dodgers pitching carries the day. I think the Dodgers win the series in 6 games. Now, when we get together next week, the series will be looking at a 6-game if necessary. But I think the Dodgers will be getting ready to crown their first series title in 5 years and send the Yankees back to back to Gotham, wondering what could have been, and making Aaron Boone's seat still that much more hotter because the Yankees figure every year they should be World Series champions. But it doesn't work that way. You gotta earn your stripes to get the title. I think the Dodgers win in 6. I watched the first WNBA game, June 21st, 1997. The New York Liberty took on the LA Sparks, and the New York Liberty won that first game. Names like Lisa Leslie, Rebecca Lobo, Cheryl Swoops, Cynthia Cooper, those were dominant names of that first few WNBA seasons. And the New York Liberty was supposed to be one of the marquee teams of the WNBA, but it never really came to pass. The Liberty came close more times you could count, but never really rose to that marquee status. Instead, the Houston Comets jumped in front of them, won and knocked off a three-peat, and was the dominant team of the WNBA in their early days. Now, the WNBA's franchises have moved around here and there, but the New York Liberty and the LA Sparks have been two of the oldest teams and one of the two of the bellwether franchises. Sparks have won titles. The Liberty, well, they've been kind of nomadic. First starting out at Madison Square Garden, then moving to some community center because their owner, the Mercurial James Dolan, really didn't want to have the franchise. But the NBA insisted that the New York area have a franchise and be partnered up with their NBA counterpart. Now, of course, the Liberty, like the Knicks, seemed to be star-crossed, always coming just a little bit short of winning an WNBA title. Everybody remembers Teresa Witherspoon's half-court shot to win Game 2 of the 99 WNBA Finals, which sent it to a third game, but the Liberty got blown out by the Comets in that third game and came painfully close to another title that they didn't get. This year, they finished 32-8, league best. Brushed past the dream, stormed past the defending champion Las Vegas Aces, and faced a formidable Minnesota Lynx team in the finals. And this finals, WNBA finals, was a classic. From the Lynx stealing Game 1 to Sabrina Ionescu's clutch shot in Game 3 to the Lynx holding off the Liberty from winning the title on their home court in Game 4. And then Game 5, how's this for a finale? Overtime thriller. The Liberty wins 67-62 to claim their first WNBA title. But it wasn't without some controversy. Lynx coach Cheryl Reeve thought that there were some kind of questionable calls in Game 5. And I thought, and she said, and I quote, this beep was stolen from us. Was she right? Did the Lynx get jobbed? Did the officials say, hey, it's about time to give Liberty their due? Not to take anything away from the New York Liberty. That was a quality team. Quality team. But my thing has always been, sometimes the referees try to make too much of things and try to determine a little bit too much. The Liberty wins the title. Like Snuffy says, finally. But one has to wonder, Now, the numbers, of course, the WNBA has got to be over the moon about. Packed house at Barclays Center in Brooklyn for the finale. 2 million people watching the game on ESPN on a Sunday night, mind you. And a record crowd in attendance for all 5 games. The Lynx have nothing to hang their head about because they were a quality team. New York Liberty stormed through the title. There's no asterisk you're going to put there. They're a quality team. Give them their due. Let's take time out, come back, and we will look at the college football playoff. Bama on the ropes after their second loss. Can't seem to win the Volunteer State. And would that maybe keep them out of playoff contention? Sports from the Hoodwood comes back at you after this.
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's premier destination for no-nonsense commentary, thorough analysis, and logical insight on the world of sports. Now here's the man that Wikipedia and Google call for sports fact checks, your host, KJ Green.
You are back in the Hoodwood, and let's shift gears and look at college football. I was looking at some statistics during the break, and I forgot that the SEC went to one big division, one big happy division, I guess, with 16 teams. Top 2 teams go to the SEC title game. But looking at the statistics and looking at the standings, how far down has Alabama fallen? Now, we're going to have the Hoodwood Hot 5 with the teams that I think, top 5 teams in the nation, but we'll look at that a little bit later. But I can foreshadow this. Alabama is not one of the top 5 teams in the country. They're not even one of the top 5 teams in the SEC. After a lackluster loss to Tennessee, their second loss in Knoxville in 3 years, their second loss in the Volunteer State this year. Remember, they lost to Vanderbilt. You have to wonder. No, Snuffy no one put any for sale signs in Kalen DeBoer's yard. At least Hoodwood Hound says he didn't. But you have to wonder, did the Alabama faithful lose their faith in Kalen DeBoer? You know, he's a splashy hire from Washington, replacing the legendary Nick Saban. But after 2 humiliating losses, Alabama doesn't lose 2 games before November. They don't lose 2 games before Halloween. But the Tide right now aren't rolling. They're not rolling over anybody. They're not doing anything to anybody other than getting beat. And the thing is this, their schedule doesn't get any easier. I mean, they struggle. They mightily struggle against, of course they lost to Vanderbilt, but they struggled against South Carolina. They barely got out of that win against the Gamecocks in Tuscaloosa. You don't roll into Bryant-Denny and keep the Tide faithful from rolling out in the fourth quarter. It just doesn't happen that way. But no one's scared of the other Tide anymore. And the Tide are ranked 15th on name alone. They've got to play Missouri this week. And the thing is this, they're not guaranteed to win that game. Mizzou is a good squad. And then after that, even though they get a week off to prepare, they've got to go to LSU. Why do I get the feeling that game's going to be at night? Baton Rouge at night is never a fun place to play. And the Bayou Bengals will be looking for some get back because Alabama has put a world of hurt on them the last few years. Yeah, they get a cookie game against Mercer, you know, that throwaway game that SEC teams always seem to get in November. And they get Alabama before facing their legendary rival Auburn in the Iron Bowl at the end of the month after Thanksgiving. But the time is running out for the Tide. And they have to start stacking up wins. And that right now. Jalen Monroe, good quarterback, but he seems to make mistakes at the worst times. The Alabama disciplined defense seems to be lacking its focus. And there are too many teams in the SEC that they've got to climb over. Getting to the SEC title game in Atlanta is pretty much a foregone conclusion. It's not going to happen. They're not going. But can they stack up enough wins to get to 10-2 and say, hey, remember us? We're Alabama. We've been in the college football playoff every year since they've had the college football playoff. Could the college football playoff shut the Tide out? Say, you're not worthy. We want quality teams in this. We don't want you. Would Kalen DeBoer get fired after a lone season in Tuscaloosa because he didn't take the Tide to the college football playoff? They had no problem getting in when it was 4 teams. Now it's 12 teams. And now everybody says, make an exception for Alabama. They're good. They're good for ratings. They're good. No. 10-2, I don't think they'll get them in. And I think unless there are going to be some major shakeups above them, I don't think they deserve to be in. You know, I was looking at some stats here, and the Boston Celtics led off the 2024-25 NBA season by hanging another banner in the rafters in Boston and thoroughly waxing the New York Knicks. The second game with that doubleheader on Tuesday night had the LA Lakers beating my beloved Timberwolves to my chagrin, and the debut of LeBron James Jr. better known as Bronny, who had an inauspicious debut with the stat line of 0 points, 1 rebound, in 3 minutes play. I don't think LeBron James should be playing, not LeBron James, his son, Bronny. I don't think he should be playing. Snuffy agrees with me. Bronny should be on the bench in the G League. What the nepotism is just sickening. And I know nepotism happens in other sports with other people, but I don't think LeBron James Jr. does enough to merit being on a G League roster. He didn't even play well when he was in college. Why did he sign a 4-year, $8 million contract? I mean, if the Lakers want to spend that kind of money, that's on them. But Bronny to being on a team just to satisfy the whims of his daddy, I don't think that's right. The Griffies watched this game from courtside seats in Los Angeles. That was legitimate talent. Ken Griffey Sr., great ball player. Ken Griffey Jr., Hall of Famer. No one questioned his talent. Everyone's questioning Bronny's talent. But that's neither here nor there. Let's take a look at the Celtics. The Celtics are defending NBA champs. And Joe Mazzulla is their fiery coach who seems to drive that team to the next level. Now you have to wonder, do they have the chops to repeat? I think they do. I don't think the East is tough enough to keep them from steamrolling to at least the Eastern Conference Finals. Can they win another title? I don't know. The West is, as usual, rugged. The Lakers are always going to be a force. Not because of Bronny, but the Timberwolves, the Thunder, the defending West champion Mavericks. Portland's up as a young team. They should be up and coming. Houston's up and coming team. Of course, you got Denver. Those guys out there are always dangerous. There are too many good teams in the West. And maybe they might beat each other up going forward and weaken each other till they get to the finals. But the Celtics are still the gold standard. Can they push enough to win another title? This might be the last shot they may have because there are going to be some players who are going to want big paychecks. And the Celtics are pushing so far past the salary cap line, they're going to have a massive luxury cap tax due. And oh, by the way, the Celtics are for sale. This team could realistically sell. The numbers just boggle my mind. This team could realistically sell for $6 billion. Not 6 million, not 60 million, not 600 million. $6 billion. That's 9 zeros, kiddos. Make sure I get it on camera right. 9 zeros. And if the Celtics are selling for that much, you know the NBA is going to be trying to put up a couple of new expansion franchises. Word has it probably be Seattle and Vegas. Don't you think if the Celtics sell for that kind of money and the NBA owners are watching this sell going, make that payment, make that dollar amount as high as possible so we can charge these would-be expansion teams billions of dollars so they can play in our playpen. And what do you think that the owners are going to do? Divvy up that money. Don't you think every owner is going to want a $400 million paycheck in their pocket and the ability to beat on these teams for a couple of years going forward? You say, oh, the NBA is bloated now as it is. They're not going to add 2 more teams. Bet me. The Celtics sale is going to be watched by a lot of people, a lot of franchises, both in the NBA and in other sports. That kind of money is not chump change. Let's take another timeout, come back with NFL Week 8. Did pretty good with the home team. We'll see if I can keep it going with the Week 8 pick. Sports from the Hoodwood comes back at you after this. Hi everyone, I'm KJ Green. If you're looking to reach a broad audience for your advertising dollar, look no further than where you are right now. You can advertise right here in the Hoodwood. If you need spots created as well, Black Banner Productions Enterprises can create commercial content that drives sales and gets results. You can send your inquiries to ads at blackbannerproductions.com. Black Banner Productions and Enterprises. Sounds, ideas, and images in the 21st century.
You are tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for opinion, analysis, and insight on the world of sports. Here now is the man banned from sports trivia contests in 38 states and 4 Canadian provinces, and not to mention Guam. Your host, KJ Green.
You are back in the Hoodwood. Now let's get into the NFL Week 8 picks. It's another solid week for the home team. I was a late cards field goal from 11 wins, but I will take a 10-5 week. You'll hear no complaints from the home team. Now, the World Series starts on Friday, and the NFL used to defer to the World Series and have a light docket with 6 teams having a bye and no Sunday night game. But now, the NFL, in its ever-vigilant effort to take over the calendar and crowd out every sport, has decided to put on a full docket this week, so no teams are on a bye. For your review, perusal, and approval, I provide for you the NFL Week 8 picks. All lines being provided by ESPN Bet and are for entertainment and comparison purposes only. If you bet the lines and get took and lose the money for the Halloween candy, that is on you. I don't pay bookies. All times are listed as Eastern Daylight. Do check the fine website at 506sports.com for a full coverage map for the games in your area, unless you're like me and have Sunday ticket. Not just bragging a little bit. Now let's get into the games. Let's start off with the Thursday, October 24th game with the 5-1 Vikings taking on the 2-4 Rams at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. 8:15 kickoff on Amazon Prime. The Vikings are 3-point favorites. Last week, the Vikings lost to the Lions 31-29, while the Rams defeated the Raiders 20-15. Fast fact here is every team that has lost to the Lions has lost their following game as well. The Rams in Week 1 lost to the Lions on Sunday night, then lost in Week 2 to the Cards. Now the Vikings lost a taut duel with the Lions and now head west for a quick turnaround match with the Rams, who slogged through a sloppy but satisfying win over the Raiders. Now the Vikings faced double-digit deficits but rallied back twice before losing late. But don't blame Sam Darnold. He has played very solidly all year. Now, Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford will be cheered by not only the return of the dependable Cooper Kupp, but young Puka Nacua, who was activated for Thursday night's game. But this, I think, will be a tougher defense than the Rams have been used to facing all year, and not an easy haul. The pick is Minnesota. Let's turn to the Sunday game, shall we? The games of Sunday, October 27th. Leading off are the 2-5 Jets taking on the 1-6 Patriots at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Mass. 1 p.m. kickoff on CBS. The Jets are 7.5-point favorites. Last week, the Jets lost to the Steelers 37-15, while the Patriots lost to the Jaguars 32-16. Fast fact here is the Jets have won the last 2 meetings after losing the last 15 to the Patriots. Sunday starts with a real dud. The Jets are looking worse and worse by the second, but cheered by the acquisition of Devontae Adams for spoiled quarterback. Did I say that out loud? Aaron Rodgers. They're not as bad as the Pats, who went to London and got throttled by the Jags. The Jets' offense is hit or miss, but with Adams and Rodgers hooking up quite frequently, they'll look like gangbusters against a weak Pats defense. The pick here is the New York Jets. Next on the docket, we have the 4-2 Eagles taking on the 3-4 Bengals at Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati. 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS. Do note that this has been flexed from the 4:25 slot it was originally in. The Bengals are 2.5-point favorites. Last week, the Bengals defeated the Browns 21-13, while the Eagles defeated the Giants 28-3. The fast fact here is the Eagles are winless in their last 5 meetings with the Bengals, 3 losses and 2 ties. Now, the Eagles are losing prime time and late afternoon games because of weak competition. They've also been flexed out of their Sunday nighter with the Jags, but they, not their competition, are winning. They had Cincinnati face an improving Bengals squad who haven't been scoring in bunches like they were a few weeks ago when they were losing, but their defense has gotten light years better and will make this a tougher game than many people would think. That said, I think the Eagles defense will give Joe Burrow and company a tough go. Because this is a road game and the Bengals are slightly favored, I'm going to get this one out the way early and make this, the Eagles, the upset of the week. Next on the docket, we have the 5-2 Packers taking on the 2-5 Jaguars at Everbank Stadium in Jacksonville. 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. The Packers are 4.5-point favorites. Last week, the Packers defeated the Texans 24-22, while the Jaguars defeated the Patriots 32-16. Fast fact is the Packers have won each of the last 3 meetings. Now, the Packers won 3 straight, now head south to face the Jags team, happy to beat someone worse than them, but now they have a tough turnaround from London, where they've been the past 2 weeks, back to the States. Now, the Pack don't have the eye-popping stats that many people think with a 5-2 team, but Jordan Love at quarterback has played decently as of late. The Packers defense will wait for the invariable screw-up by the Jags offense and then turn them methodically into points. It won't be pretty, but I think the Pack will slog through this one. The pick here is Green Bay. Next on the docket, we have the 5-2 Ravens taking on the 1-6 Browns at Huntington Bank Stadium in Cleveland. 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS. The Ravens are 10.5-point favorites. Last week, the Ravens defeated the Buccaneers 41-31, while the Browns lost to the Bengals 21-13. Fast fact is Ravens have won 36 of the 50 meetings between the two teams, but have split the last 6. Now, the Ravens ran wild on a decent Bucs team last Monday and have to be absolutely drooling at the prospect of facing a sad sack Browns team. Losing Deshaun Watson to an Achilles injury may have been a blessing in disguise, as the well-traveled quarterback Jameis Winston will get the start. Now, he is capable of moving an often punchless Browns offense, but he can't help the Browns defense, who beyond Myles Garrett shows little optimism, and add the prospect of facing a rejuvenated Derrick Henry sledgehammering and the whirling dervish that is Lamar Jackson, and you have a bad combination indeed. That's why I'm making Baltimore the Hoodwood lock of the week. Next on the docket, we have the 4-3 Falcons taking on the 4-3 Buccaneers at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. Falcons are 2.5-point favorites. Last week, the Falcons lost to the Seahawks 34-14, while the Buccaneers lost to the Ravens 41-31. Fast fact here is Bucs quarterback Baker Mayfield and Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins rank 2nd and 4th respectively in NFL passing yards. Now, control of the NFC South is on the line here. Both teams come in off of lopsided losses. The Bucs score is a little bit deceptive, as they never really were in that game with the Ravens. The first meeting was a high-scoring thriller that the Falcons won on a walk-off TD in overtime. As much as I want to believe in Baker Mayfield, losing both of his top wideouts in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans really hurts him. Falcons continue to win the ugly ones. The pick here is Atlanta. Next on the docket, we have the 3-4 Cardinals taking on the 2-4 Dolphins at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. The Dolphins are 3-point favorites. Last week, the Dolphins lost to the Colts 16-10, while the Cardinals defeated the Chargers 17-15. Fast fact is the Cardinals have 1 win and 6 all-time visits to Miami. Now, the Cards sleptwalked through 3.5 quarters of their Monday nighter, then finished with a late closing burst to steal the game at the gun. They head east to face the Dolphins team that is looking more bound by each passing second. I'm sorry, Tyler Huntley is clearly not the answer for the Dolphins quarterback woes. Most of the time, I don't trust a Western team heading east to play an early game. The Cards are doubly hampered because they played late on Monday night. I'm going to regret this pick. Pick here is Arizona. Next on the docket, we have the 1-5 Titans taking on the 5-1 Lions at Ford Field in Detroit. 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. The Lions are 11-point favorites. Last week, the Titans lost to the Bills 34-10, while the Lions defeated the Vikings 31-29. The fast fact here is the Titans have won each of the last 6 meetings. The last time the Lions won in this series in Detroit was 1986, when the team they were playing was known as the Houston Oilers. Now, fresh off of a thrilling win on the road over divisional rival Minnesota, the Lions head home to face a sad sack Titans team that can't get out of its own way and have quarterbacks out the wazoo. Normally, you'd scream trap game, as the Lions have had a pair of very satisfying road wins, first over the Cowboys, then over the Vikings. But this Lions team's built different. They are looking really scary these days, folks. The Sonic and Knuckles combination of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery is really bad news for a weak Titans defense, and that freewheeling line defense will live in the Titans backfield. This won't be pretty. The pick here is Detroit. Let's take a timeout. Come back with the rest of the NFL Week 8 picks. Sports from the Hoodwood rolls on after this.
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for the most honest insight, thorough analysis, and unfiltered opinion on the world of sports. Now, once again, here's the man of the hour, After Hours, your host, KJ Green.
Now let's continue on with the NFL Week 8 picks. Next on the docket, we have the 4-3 Colts taking on the 5-2 Texans at NRG Stadium in Houston. 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS. Texans are 6-point favorites. Last week, the Colts defeated the Dolphins 16-10, while the Texans lost to the Packers 24-22. Fast fact here is both teams have a point differential of +6. Houston's 165-159, while the Colts are 155-149. Go figure. The Colts are a tough team to figure out, but they grind out the wins that they need to. Heading down to divisional rival Houston is not an easy task by any means necessary. The Texans, stung by a second road loss to an NFC North team, are not in the best of moods. Let's just be frank here. CJ Stroud is playing like a beast, and the Texans' offense will continue to put up points, something that the Colts are having trouble doing. The pick here is Houston. Next on the docket, we have the 5-2 Bills taking on the 4-3 Seahawks at Lumen Field in Seattle. 4:05 kickoff on Fox. The Bills are 3-point favorites. Last week, the Bills defeated the Titans 34-10, while the Seahawks defeated the Falcons 34-14. Now, fast fact here is that the teams have split their last 6 meetings, winning at least once on each other's field. Now, the Bills made short work of the Titans last week and now head west to the rowdy climbs of Seattle's Lumen Field. But the Seahawks really haven't been winning there. They've lost their last 2 home games. The Bills' offense seemed to have turned a corner with the acquisition of Amari Cooper, giving another target to Josh Allen. They have made offensive progress. I think despite the hard running of Kenneth Walker, the Bills will pull out a tight game. The pick here is Buffalo. Next on the docket, we have the 2-5 Saints taking on the 3-3 Chargers at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. 4:05 kickoff on Fox. The Chargers are 7-point favorites. Last week, the Saints lost to the Broncos 33-10, while the Chargers lost to the Cardinals 17-15. Fast fact here is the Saints have won each of the last 5 meetings, but the Chargers still lead the overall series 7-6. Both teams coming off primetime losses. The Saints got poleaxed by the Broncos at home, while the Chargers offense couldn't locate the end zone, lost to the gun to a Cards team that they clearly were better than. Now the Saints quarterback situation is getting worse by the second, and I can't see the Chargers offense playing that bad for 2 weeks straight. At least I hope not. The pick is the Los Angeles Chargers. Next on the docket, we have the 4-2 Bears taking on the 5-2 Commanders at Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland. 4:25 kickoff on CBS. This was flexed from the 1 o'clock spot. The Bears are 3-point favorites. Last week, the Bears were on their bye, while the Commanders defeated the Panthers 40-7. Fast fact here is the Bears have gotten 5 touchdowns from their offense in each of their past 2 games. It's the first time they've done that since 1956. Pair of young guns is the draw in this matchup, so much so that the NFL flexed this game into a later afternoon slot. Caleb Williams leads an improved Bears squad, and the hope is that Jaden Daniels gets over his sore ribs to be able to help marquee this matchup. If not, the quarterback spot goes to Marcus Mariota. He's still in this league? Oh, wow. Tough call on this one, as not only both offenses look solid, but both defenses have shined as well. I'll go with the home team in a low-scoring slugfest. The pick here is Washington. Next on the docket, we have the 1-6 Panthers taking on the 4-3 Broncos at Empower Field at Mile High in Denver. 4:25 kickoff on CBS. The Broncos are 8-point favorites. Last week, the Panthers lost to the Commanders 40-7, while the Broncos defeated the Saints 33-10. Fast fact here is the Broncos have not made the playoffs since 2015. Their last playoff win was Super Bowl 50 against the Panthers. Now, the Panthers are looking like a college homecoming opponent, the one everybody wants to bring in to beat on. And it's a team that everybody, except Raiders, want to see as that highly beatable opponent. Now, the Broncos are far from world beaters, but they're looking more and more competent on both sides of the ball. And playing at home is always good tonic for them. The Panthers sprung a road upset the last time they ventured this far west, but I can't see this happening again, especially with the Panthers being forced to use Bryce Young at quarterback after starter Andy Dalton sprained his thumb in a car accident. Dalton family was okay in that car accident. Their 3 daughters and their dog came out okay, I'm happy to report, but it won't help the Panthers in this instance. The pick here is Denver. Next on the docket, we have the 6-0 Chiefs taking on the 2-5 Raiders at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. 4:25 kickoff on CBS. The Chiefs are 10-point favorites. Last week, the Chiefs defeated the 49ers 28-18, while the Raiders lost to the Rams 20-15. Fast fact here is the Chiefs have won 7 straight as the visiting team against the Raiders. They've won the last 4 in Vegas and 3 in Oakland. Now, this game screams trap for the Chiefs, who are coming off of a satisfying road win in a Super Bowl rematch against the 49ers, while the Raiders look lethargic in a sluggish loss to the Rams. Now, the Chiefs are looking solid, while the Raiders are not. The Chiefs have yet to lose on the road, or at home for that matter, while the Raiders have 1 win at home and lost to the Panthers in Las Vegas. I'm going to ignore the trap signs, though. The pick here is Kansas City. Sunday night game features the 3-3 Cowboys against the 3-4 49ers at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California. 8:20 kickoff on NBC and Peacock. The 49ers are 4.5-point favorites. Last week, the Cowboys were on their bye, while the 49ers lost to the Chiefs 28-18. Fast fact is the 49ers have won the last 3 meetings to take the series lead at 20-19-1. Now, the Pokes needed their bye week in the worst way to salve their bruised egos after taking an awful beating at home by the Lions. Now, they head to the Bay to face the Niners, who were manhandled in a supposed Super Bowl rematch that was nothing like the thrilling big game last February. The Pokes have their flaws, but they are relatively healthy compared to the Niners, who are looking more and more like a mash unit, losing offensive skill players left and right, and making Brock Purdy look very ordinary. Dak Prescott plays maddeningly inconsistent, That's why he'll shine in prime time and make all the Cowboy fans go around saying, see, they still them boys. The pick here is Dallas. Turning to the Monday night game, one Monday nighter this week, the 2-5 Giants taking on the 5-2 Steelers at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh. 8:20 kickoff on ABC and ESPN. The Steelers are 6.5-point favorites. Last week, the Giants lost to the Eagles 28-3, while the Steelers defeated the Jets 37-15. Fast fact here, the Steelers have won 8 of the 12 meetings between the teams since the AFL-NFL merger. Up until 1969, they were actually divisional rivals, playing twice a year, and the Giants won 36 of the first 66 meetings between the two teams. Now, the G-Men have gone from bad to worse, if that was possible, and now have to face the sad reality of heading to Acrisure Stadium to face an increasingly confident Steeler team that is liking the prospect of letting Russell Wilson run their offense. Steelers get a second consecutive prime date at home against a New York team that is going nowhere. How does that happen? Who knows will be playing quarterback for the G-Men? Will it matter? No. Pick here is Pittsburgh. There you have it. Last week I went 10-5. Lock was correct and the upset incorrect. Overall, I'm 67-42. 3-4 on the locks, 1-6 on the upsets. We will take our final timeout. Come back with the Hoodwood Hot 5. Phat Dap, Head Slap, and the final word from the wood. Sports from the Hoodwood heads down the home stretch after this.
You're tuned into Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for no-nonsense commentary, insight, and opinions on the world of sports. Here now live in living color, black by popular demand, your host, KJ Green.
Rounding third and headed for home here in the Hoodwood. We'll finish up strong with the Hoodwood Hot 5, Phat Dap and Head Slap, and the final word from the Hoodwood. Let's look at the Hoodwood Hot 5, our first college top 5. And our Hot 5 will work back from 5 to 1. These are my top 5 teams, not necessarily what's polled, but who I think the 5 best teams are in the nation and who should be getting close to getting comfortable for a college football playoff. We'll start with number 5, the University of Miami, 7-0 after defeating Louisville in a wild shootout last week, 52-45. Their next game is against the absolute abomination of a team known as Florida State, 7 p.m. Saturday on ESPN. Our number 4 team is the 5-1 Ohio State Buckeyes. They were idle last Saturday. With nobody to play, they can whet their chops up to beat up on Nebraska at home. Noon kickoff on Fox. That should have a squadron of referees on standby to cover up the poor Cornhuskers after the Buckeyes beat their brains in. Our number 3 team In the Hoodwood Hot 5, the Penn State Nittany Lions were 6-0. They too were idle last week, but they have a little tougher squad to face as they go into the Madhouse in Madison to take on the Wisconsin Badgers. 7:30 Saturday on NBC is that tangle. They will have their work cut out for them. The number 2 team in our Hoodwood Hot 5, the Georgia Bulldogs. They're 6-1 after slapping around Texas in Austin 30-15 to make a case that they should be top dog, pun intended, hush Snuffy, for the number one team, and of course get a top 4 berth in the college football playoff. They're idle next week. Their next game is a week from Saturday against Florida in Jacksonville. And our number 1 team in the Hoodwood Hot 5, to no one's surprise, get your quackers out. The number 1 team is the Oregon Ducks. After shutting out Purdue in West Lafayette 35-0, they're unquestionably the number 1 team in the nation. Their next game is a true test as the Illini of Illinois come to Autzen Stadium to take on the Ducks. That's a 3:30 kickoff on CBS. That would be one of those must-see games. That's my Hot 5. What's yours? Let's take a look at the Phat Dap and Head Slap of the Week. Phat Dap of the Week goes to Kennesaw State. The Owls went into the game against Liberty 28-point underdogs. So what did they do? On their own home turf, knock off the unbeaten Liberty Flames by the score of 27-24, not only getting their first win of the season, but their first win as FBS school. Way to break your maiden by getting a win over an unbeaten team who was dreaming about getting into the rankings and maybe pushing for a playoff berth. That might have gone up in flames. I'm sorry, that just was too easy. But Phat Dap to Kennesaw State for getting their first win of the year. On the flip side, the Head Slap of the Week go to the noisy Cleveland Brown fans that cheered when Deshaun Watson got hurt. Deshaun Watson may be a despicable human being. He may have done some reprehensible things. He may have been a crappy quarterback. It's obviously a bad beat for the Cleveland Browns. But no one deserves to be cheered when they're hurt. And Deshaun Watson suffering an Achilles tear, will be out for the rest of the season and probably a good bit of next season. But for the Browns fans to cheer this occurrence is classless, tasteless, and it just shouldn't happen. Head slap to Cleveland Brown fans. Come on, man. Y'all know better. Now, without much further ado, let's go to the final word from the wood. He was a portly pitcher who had only pitched 17 innings as a September call-up in 1980. But he was pressed into service on opening day when the starter was unable to pitch. He threw a shutout. He threw 5 shutouts in his first 6 starts. His ERA was microscopic after the first month of the season. And he just kept rolling and rolling. And the city of Los Angeles was never the same. Speaking of Fernando Valenzuela, the robust, rotund, portly pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1981 won Rookie of the Year, and he won the Cy Young, one of the first players to ever do that. He inspired a city who had never had a Hispanic star in a city that is very highly Hispanic. And the Hispanic nation and its patrons took that Fernando as one of their own. Ticket sales went through the roof anytime Valenzuela pitched that season. And despite a strike, Valenzuela became the certified ace of the Dodgers staff. He was only a rookie. And he made Dodger fans go gaga. Me, myself, I never was a Dodger fan. Never bought into the whole great Dodger in the sky that Tommy Lasorda liked to throw at everybody. But I like Valenzuela. He was portly, quiet, looked to the sky as he delivered his pitches. Didn't say much, let his pitching do the talking. And he could hit. He was a decent hitter, winning Silver Slugger for his position twice in his career. He pitched 9 years for the Dodgers, and then pitched a no-hitter in 1990. And then, unceremoniously, the Dodgers just shoved him out the door. For the longest time, Fernando did not want to be part of the Dodger tradition, eschewing calls for him to come back for old timers days. But after a length of time heals all wounds, and he was welcomed back in the fold like a long lost son. The fans always loved Fernando. They always thought highly of him. It's a class act. Always pitched hard. Always gave it his all. Fernando pitched 15 years in the big leagues before retiring in 1996. After his retirement, he moved into the broadcast booth. Not the broadcast booth you would think of, but he was in the Spanish broadcast booth, sitting along with the legendary Jaime Harding and doing broadcast games for the Dodgers. And he was as beloved as a broadcaster, color commentator, whose stoic yet prescient and insightful delivery won the fans over quickly. Just had to be in Spanish. Fernando Valenzuela passed away on Tuesday after a lengthy battle with liver cancer. He was 63. There is a video, and if I can find it, I'll put it in, of Vin Scully, legendary broadcaster of the Dodgers, who couldn't throw out a first pitch. And he needed a left-hander. And who came out but Fernando, to the roar of the crowd. Angelinos thought of Fernando as one of their own. A homeboy from the hood, even though he came from Mexico. Fernando was one of the Latinos' first big stars, and he carried his star. Dodgers retired as 34. He's one of two players that did not make the Hall of Fame, but was rightfully have their number retired. The other number being Junior Gilliam. The Dodgers lost one of their legends. Rest in peace, Fernando. And that is the final word from the Wood. Now, with the music coming up in the background, you know that means that your time here in the Hoodwood is just about done, and I thank you so much for your visit. The show's email is kjgreen@sportsfromthehoodwood.com. We send emails regarding show topics, both past and future, questions, comments on the show, and praise and criticism. And welcome your correspondence, and we try to get back to you in a timely manner. The show's website is sportsfromthehoodwood.com, and that's back catalog of the show dating back 12 years in both audio and video forms. Check that out if there are any shows that you may have missed. You can join the debate and conversation on the Sports from the Hoodwood page on Facebook, which also has a video podcast simulcast as well as other topics. Funny stuff I find on the web, plenty of great sports debate, and lots more. It's a very active site. Please join. We'll have a lot of fun. I post often and I respond to member posts frequently. Now the video versions are also on YouTube. Please hit that subscribe and smash that like button for more great content. And don't forget the link to this podcast is also on the show's tribal feed at Hoodwood Sports, with a host of other interesting stuff that I find there. Tweet the show and do tweet back. You can like and follow as well. And the audio version is on Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple, and a host of other fine podcast platforms and providers. If the Hoodwood is not on your favorite, please do ask for it. Drop me a line. I'll do what I can to get it there. As always, special thanks to Rage Pictures for providing production assistance to both the show and the website. That's it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from the Hoodwood. Until next time, fellow sports fans, I'm Millie Bev's son, KJ Green, 30.
Sports from the Hoodwood
Is a Black Bandit Productions and Enterprises presentation.
of a 551 audio and films production.